Okay,
Mhm.
good.
So Nicole,
Okay.
I'll send this to you later on, so you can post it on the website. If you have any idea how to, because I don't.
I
So
don't
this will
know
not be
either, but I'll
streaming
figure
live?
it out.
What's that, Christy?
This won't be streaming live on YouTube?
No, you can't, no,
Okay,
no. I tried to get it done today. I called Kevin and Kevin said there's no way you can get that done by,
Can you hear me
today.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Chrissy. That was wrong with mine.
ah,
The camera was shut off.
okay.
Go figure.
I mean, the light was on, but the thing was slid the wrong way.
Light was on, but nobody was home.
That was the story of my life.
That's pretty much mine too.
Mine too.
Everybody's on now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll
we got
start.
it.
Cynthia, can you hear us? Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll start, welcome everybody to tonight's committee of whole meeting for February 15th, 2022. We're going to start with the acknowledgement of treaties of peace and friendship. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Lalan, thank you. Okay, next is the oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge
To
to the best of our ability
the
the
duties
duties of the office as may be
as may be
imposed
imposed
upon
upon
us
by law.
by law.
by law.
Okay, thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions? Okay, can we get a motion to adopt?
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can we get a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay. On the question, all those in favor of say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The agenda is adopted. Statements of conflict of interest, anyone conflict of interest statement?
I will be stepping down in regards to the rental space.
Okay. So, yeah, I think there's a form with that, but you can work that out with the clerk treasurer at some point.
Okay.
So that there's no presentations, petitions, or delegations. Business pertaining to the minutes. Do we have any? I don't see any declared there. So we move to presentations by council members. Deputy Mayor Burke, you're up.
Just wanted to make a statement to inform council of some of the issues that are happening and what is happening concerning NB Power and some of the statements made by some of the people who are in the know as far as NB Power is concerned. I want to begin by saying that Harmel Vieno is a very experienced and highly knowledgeable individual. He's on the board of directors of the Port of Beldoon. He has also just recently been assigned to by the province of New Brunswick to look after the changeovers that are happening within the municipalities around the province. I believe the province of New Brunswick assigned, I believe it was 20 people that were asked to aid in the transitions that are going to happen with all of the LSDs and the municipalities that are being changed and elections being held, because Mr. Viano is a highly experienced provincial executive that was on many departments within the province of New Brunswick. So my point to that is that Mr. Viano is also affiliated with a COA, and he is directly involved with all of the issues that come before when companies and businesses and the port even is developing businesses that a COA plays a very critical role in the economic development, not only of Baldoon, but around the province. So, you know, the president CAO, Keith Cronkite, you know, is very aware and knowledgeable of Mr. Viano. Mr. Carroll, who is the president CAO of the Port of Baldoon, is also very familiar with Mr. Viano. And even I personally, in my role as mayor a few years ago, had some very positive experiences with Mr. Viano in developing issues and addressing things that had to do with the municipality at that time. So, you know, with that said, you know, the positive part about all this is that they are putting together between the Port of Baldoon and the province of New Brunswick some very experienced and highly knowledgeable people that are going to be addressing the economic development, not only of Baldoon, but of the province. So I wanted to keep council informed of that, make sure that you're aware that that these people are people that we can rely on, that we can speak to. They are very familiar, for example, with our relationships with the Indigenous people, basically being the First Nation Papineau and First Nations Eel River Bar. You know, they have a very strong, positive business relationship and knowledge on how Northern New Brunswick needs to be positively approached and how we're going to develop this. So, with that said, I just wanted to be sure that council was aware that these things are in motion. That some of the strongest business minds in all of Northern New Brunswick are working together to make sure that further economic development comes to our community, and all of these things will be very positive for not only Baldoon but the region. And you know, I just wanted council to know that that anytime they wish to have conversations or questions and things like that, to just let us know, and either the mayor or myself will be more than happy to relay any questions you may have to those parties and answer any questions you may have. So I just wanted to be sure that that was there before council, and I'm going to leave it at that. And if there are any questions, please don't hesitate.
Just before I turn over to council and council can ask some questions, just so I'll give you some background. The reason that sort of Ron brought it up and the reason he knows, last week I had a meeting with Hermel. I didn't tell anybody because I kind of got the impression, you know, I didn't want to put him on the spot with having, because it's the first time council has really talked with Mr. Viano, and he is sort of the, he just like to use the expression right-hand man, but he really is for the premier. So I didn't even mention it to CEO Ferguson, and Scott knows all the meetings that I go to. So I just didn't want to, he's an important guy and I didn't want to put him on the spot. So, you know, he came and he told us some things about MB Power and about, you know, what the sort of the plan is. And then he knows, because he's the chairperson at the port too, he sort of knows Ron's role there on behalf of the village. But there is another meeting coming up, and I can ask Mr. Viano, now that we've sort of had that one meeting, if council members can attend, and if council members would like to attend that meeting. I don't know what his reaction would be to that, so I guess council would have to tell me if he prefers. And I don't think there's anything, you know, I don't think there's anything like extremely secretive or anything that he would have, but I just put it out there. If I'm gonna ask him if it's okay if all of council attends that session. If he prefers to have it limited, do you still want me to attend that meeting? I'm just leaving it up to council, because I'll tell him, if you want me to tell him, no, at this point, council prefers that everyone be in the room, or, whomever, then I don't mind relaying that message. I don't know what he's gonna think and say, and I just want to know from you if his reaction is that he would prefer to keep it to a smaller group at this point, meaning myself and Scott or whomever.
Mhm.
What's the direction you want me to take?
So
I'll do it.
when is this meeting that you're talking about?
March 8th, maybe. I'm thinking March 8th.
Okay.
And it would be in the morning.
Mhm.
So again, however you want me to approach that, because I know it used to bother me too when I was on council. I used to say a lot to the former mayor, you're not really keeping me in the loop. So
Right.
I can understand where that's coming from. I used to say that myself. So from this point forward, especially with him, if whatever the direction is, I'll take it. If you want me to say, well, at this point, council needs to be involved, I'll do it. If your preference is sort of go with what Mr. Ageno would prefer, I'll do that too.
Just to put my own 2 cents worth in for what it's worth, I think it is imperative that at minimum, the mayor is at all meetings pertaining
Mhm.
to any economic development that the village of Beldoon will experience. I think no matter how you cut it, the mayor is there at all meetings, no matter whether someone else chairs it or not. The mayor is FASCO invited to all meetings that have to do with council. So for sure, from my personal experience and my personal opinion, is that at a minimum, the mayor should be attending at least every meeting.
Okay, well, why don't we do this? Now that you know the date and it's not next week or anything, if you want to take a few days to think about it, and maybe just send an email out to everybody and just to sort of let me know what your preference is on that, then we can do that. And I'll follow that directive.
I agree the mayor should be our spokesperson at any meetings, and I have no problem you attending it alone if that's where it goes towards. I
Mhm.
like to attend, but I understand sometimes it's not a possibility for all of us being in the room, especially in the times we're in. So yeah, I know that the mayor is the face of this village. So yeah, I think that if it comes to just the mayor, the mayor should be attending all these important meetings and then advise us what's going on.
Well, and I haven't even asked him yet, so his preference might be to meet with everybody, right? So I'll send it out to him in that way, and then I'll just maybe CC everybody, or I'll ask him or whatever, just let him know that I'm gonna let council know what his preference is. How's
So
that?
you've had one meeting with him already, and so there's a second meeting scheduled, is that correct?
Right.
And do you know what's on the agenda for this meeting, what the purpose of it would be?
No, I would just think it's probably going to be economic. There's no set agenda, let me put it that way. And there wasn't a set agenda in the first one. It's just that I know Mr. Viano is an important, one of those guys behind the scenes that seems to have a lot to say. And you don't really see them up front. He's not a minister, but he's very well connected, and he knows exactly what's going on. So he's a good person for the village to know and to at least hear from. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just wondering what reason he would have to not want to meet with all of council. If he's already met with you personally, what reason would he have to not want to meet with all of council?
Yeah, and he may not. He may say, listen, that's what I prefer anyway. So
Yeah.
the best thing to do right now is to sort of, I'll follow up now that we have a day to meet. I'll follow up and say, look, you know, and it's always good to have council members involved. Would it be okay if council members who wanted to be at that meeting attended that meeting? And he may say that's the very best. And if he has an issue with it, I'll ask him to, because I need to come back to council and say, you know, why. So
Right. Mhm.
that's fair.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So did anyone else have any other questions for Deputy Mayor Burke?
No.
Okay.
The only other statement that I want to add to that, just for council's knowledge, I'm not sure how many are aware that the Port of Baldoon, as you know, I was having monthly meetings with Jenna McDonald. Jenna McDonald is no longer at the port. She has moved on to other ventures. However, I have been told that Jennifer wants to continue the meetings that were going on because the port found them very productive and informative. And I also believe that kept council informed on what was happening. So I believe it was also important for council to be aware of some of the things that were happening at the port. But with that said, the statement was made that they did not want to disclose at this time where Jenna went, but they did say that that her future would include meetings with Jenna as to wherever she went. So with that said, she must have moved on to a job where she will have contact with the port. And that's probably a very positive thing for the village of Baldoon, so that if we're looking at economic development in the whatever venture she got into, that we have a very strong and positive person in that position that we can communicate with and talk to. So I just thought I'd pass that on.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Deputy Mayor Burke? Okay. So we move on to Councillor Carrier.
Yes, okay. I had two things. One of them was the road list. I had got Scott to print out some information. It's not quite what I was expecting, but I guess this is what he had to work with. So it gives the mileage or the roads that are maintained and the roads that are not maintained. I guess what I would like to see at some point is a better map that shows, let's say, the maintained roads in red and the unmaintained in blue, or something similar to those, with a listing of how many people live on those unmaintained roads is what I guess I'd like to look at, because I'd like to know how council would feel in regards to maybe when we're working on our municipal plan as to coming up with some form of criteria that once a road that is unmaintained meets this criteria. So let's just say, for example, once the road has 5 homes onto it, then council would entertain the possibility of maintaining it with some or all services based on how many families or homes are on that unmaintained road. I just feel like it's something that going forward in a community that we have all stated that we want to grow and bring people to, it's kind of hard to do that if we're not willing to grow along with it and give people places, where they can put up homes and not have to worry about getting out in the winter and those types of things. So I'm just wanting to know, I guess, what council's thoughts are on that, if it's something they feel like we should be doing.
Maybe I'll throw my 2 cents worth out on that statement first, just to say, maybe shed some light on what some of the councils have said in the past. You mentioned the number 5 houses, for example, residents move on a street. The conversations that I've had with the previous councils, it was 3 houses. When 3 residents move on a street, the village would supply those services. So yeah, I think your idea is the right one, and it's the right approach, and it is a very positive one. And I think there's only 2 or 3 streets in Baldoon that are of any length. So I mean, if we have a street, for example, that's, even if I said it's half a kilometer long, the 3 residents built houses on those streets, then yeah, I would personally be in favor of supplying the services that that type of application would deserve. So the number has always been about 3 residents on a street. So yes, I would agree with that statement 100%.
Okay.
Other council members?
Yeah, I have comments on that as well. I guess because the request for this information came out of Mr. Marshall's request to have the end of Levillet Street plowed. And when you're looking at the kilometerage there, it's 0.28 kilometers or whatever to plow to the end of his section. And when you're talking about 300 meters, it doesn't matter if there's 1 house, 2 houses, 3 houses, it's to the end of that section of the road. So I think instead of looking at number of houses, it's like if we're looking at the house that's built to the end of that street, do you know what I mean? So it's not that we're extending to all the way to the end of Levillet, we're extending the plowing to his house so that he's, do you know what I'm saying? Instead of looking at, oh, well, we can only look at, we'll give Rorty Road, for example, because that's one that's on the list. If 3 houses move down Rorty Road, well, if somebody moves, say, behind your mother's house, Christy, then you don't have to plow to the end of Rorty Road. You don't have to plow to the next house. Do you know what I'm saying? So if we're going to look at kind of where people are in relation to sections of the road that need to be plowed, that's more practical for people like Mr. Marshall, who I think it's Marshall, who just need his section of that road plowed. He doesn't need it plowed all the way to the beach. Do you know what I mean? So
I understand that, but
about those types of things as well.
the only thing that I would wonder though is like, say, for example, the Lake Road. If someone was to put a home on the Lake Road close to the border of where the village of Beldoon stops, then now there's only 1 house, just like there would be only 1 house on the main tank. So do we plow to the end of that road now to where that 1 house is? Do you know what I mean? So I think there has to be something.
The policy doesn't necessarily apply evenly. Do you know what I mean? Like we need to be practical about the way we're looking at it. To say that there has to be 3 houses down Levillet Street is not necessarily practical for a place that there isn't room for 3 houses. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not talking about Colony Road where somebody's, building.
Okay, so there's no room for more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's also not forget that there are some streets in our community that cross the railroad tracks. So
Yeah.
plowing is not a question of how many houses are on the street. It's a question of safety, crossing the railroad tracks that do not have any services. In other words, stop signs, signals, blockades to prevent any danger to, let's say, fire trucks, garbage trucks, or any other emergency vehicle going across there. I know that a lot of people argue, well, what would happen, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, those are all questions they should have asked prior to building in the location they built or where they purchased a home. They should have asked that question prior to all of a sudden, here it is.
Okay, so I have two issues with that though.
Yeah.
Here are my issues. Many homes that are built in this community were not built because someone chose that piece of property. Homes were built in this community because property was handed down from families from generation to generation, or because it was given to them by a family member, or because they married someone and moved into that family's property, or inherited the property. So a lot of homes in this community, that's how the property was established, and that's how people ended up with that property. So to say that, well, you chose that property is not always the case. Sometimes that was the only property they had available to them, or that they could afford at the time. The other issue I have is I keep thinking back to the money that we are investing right now in the snow removal program. So how do we look at some residents and say, well, you know what? You chose to build there, so shovel your way out in the winter. But the other people who are on the maintained roads that we already plow, we're going to spend just a little bit more to get them out just a little bit quicker. But you're on your own. Here's a plow, or here's a snow shovel. So that's where I have an issue. Do you know what I mean? So how do we give extra to these people who are already getting maintenance and nothing to these people who are out of luck and don't even get their garbage picked up?
Okay, perhaps, okay, that's a good discussion. Maybe Councillor Guitar-McDonnell and Councillor Carmichael, do you guys want to add something?
Well, I pretty much said what I had to say the last time. I agree to some and I disagree to some. We have to make sure that these properties are able to get there without any damage to the equipment that is being used or the vehicles. That is one, and that there's a good turnaround. If you put a plow down and there's no turnaround for that plow, what is he going to do? Back out the whole way? And it's a safety issue for everyone that's involved. So, but yeah, I spoke my piece on it the last meeting, and I pretty much feel the same way about it. But there is a lot of good points out there, and I can agree to look at things, and if there's changes required, we can make some, and if we can't make the changes, then it is what it is. But I think there's a lot more than just saying we're going to plow this area. There's a lot more, like there's tracks in the way, there's there's certain areas that is almost impossible to go down with heavy equipment.
Councillor Guitar Martin.
I believe also that this is something we have to take a look at, because as you say, our village has grown and expanded, and new families, new homes. We just have to look at the dynamics around, and like I said, being able to put a plow in place and have the safety to turn and come out. All those things have to be looked at, but no, we need to take a look at our plan for sure. It has to be updated, definitely.
Okay, Councillor Carrier, this is your item. You get the last, Councillor Robinson, did you?
Yeah,
want to-
sorry, I just have one more
Councillor Carrier.
question. Why were Conservation, Green Lane, and Shannon Drive added to our winter maintenance program this year? So those were private,
I can answer that if you-
unmaintained roads, but they were added this year. So why?
No, they weren't. That's my bad. I made a mistake there. I took them off the list. I told DPI to take them off because I thought Shannon Drive was being given to to the port. They've always been on the list to do. So then I met with them after, because they said, well, geez, we're not getting that done. And I said, well, because we don't own the road anymore or whatever. And so that was my fault. And then I added it back on.
So
again.
those three were always publicly maintained roads?
Yes.
Okay.
And Shannon will not be, Counselor, it's Shannon is going to be, I thought it was the whole road when I got involved with this in August. Because this was something that Mr. Lee was involved in prior to me getting there, and I thought it was the whole road. So if we didn't own it, then we wouldn't have to maintain it. So I said, well, that's a win for us. They're gonna have to clean it themselves or whatever. But then I found out that it wasn't. It's simply from conservation to the end to where they're going into NB Power or whatever, which will not be maintained. I thought it was the whole road. So that was my fault, and that's why I met with them, and that was they were just put back on the list that they were before.
Okay.
But you're saying we still maintain a portion of that road?
Yes, well, it's a municipal road, and it was always maintained. It was part of the policy that they were maintained. What I did was take them off because I didn't think we owned them anymore. So
I
said,
didn't
well, if we
either.
don't own them, then we're and that was my fault. It was a mistake that I made, and I rectified it because they got upset, and I had a meeting with them, and they said, no, this has been maintained for Mrs. Furlot, I think her name is, and their lawyer, and said, no, we've got the papers. It's always been maintained, and I made that mistake thinking that we didn't have it anymore.
Okay.
So I met with DTI. We had a meeting with them here in Bathurst and said, listen, that's my bad. Can we please get them back on? So it's not costing us any more money. We might have saved if we weren't doing it anymore, but we certainly did maintain those roads prior to this year.
Okay.
Councillor Carrier, do you mind it before you finish it off? Did I jump in for a second?
Sure.
So Deputy Mayor Burke, I'm stepping down here for a minute. I agree with our village. It looks like our village is going to change quite a bit in the upcoming. I think there's some things we have to our village would stay the same way for a long time, but it's not now. It's growing. There are new families coming in. We're expanding. We want new families to come in. So I think when we do our plan, we really need to look at, this is one of the things that we need to look at. I think if our snowplow issue is working for us the way it should be right now, the way the status is right now. So I think Councillor Carrier's points are good ones, and I think, you know, I think the Councillor Robinson and Councillor Corey are probably closer than we think. But all those points are good, but I just, you know, we do have a lot of families coming in, it sounds like, and hopefully that's going to continue, and we're going to have to adjust to that fact, right? So, and I'll just leave it at that. Councillor Carrier, you can finish it.
I just had another quick question. I'm just wondering, the people that live on these roads that are unmaintained, do they pay the same tax rate as the people who live on the roads that are maintained? And if so, why would that be? Why are they paying for services that they don't have, that they don't get?
That's a good question.
Well,
They're not-
if I could speak to it just for a sec, if no one else,
Sure.
I know the one we're talking about, the one house that's down there. That was never maintained, and it's never been my vision or priority or whatever to have them not maintained. All I can do is provide you information. So I've talked to 2 contractors. There's one house down there. It's gonna cost $30,000 to $40,000 a year to clear that road. Which is the estimate that I got from them. So that would be council's decision if they wanted to change that, because, and DTI will not go down there. It's gonna be the same as they did on the one going down to Ocean, Mr. Guitar's house, I think. They chose not, they said, we're not doing that anymore. It's not safe and whatever. So then council, I think 3 years ago or something like that, made the decision, because it was a maintained road always since the 70s, that they would continue to do it and pay the contractor. So those are the types of issues that you're looking at, and it's up to your wishes as council. And myself or your next CAO will do whatever you guys want to do for sure.
What
But
makes it
it's just,
unsafe
it comes
for
with a
Plow?
cost, that's all.
If I may, Councillor Corrier, you know, just to add to your question or shed some light on it, it's the province of New Brunswick does not allow a municipality to have 2 central rates in its community. The village of Beldoon has a central rate and a fringe rate, which is basically the industry. That dates back to the day of when Andy Flanagan was mayor. I believe that's in the early 1990s. That because industry was expanding rapidly in Beldoon, that the province allowed the village to have an industrial rate and a residential rate. But if you go around the province, that's the exception, not the rule. And there is no municipality that has 2 rates on housing. So the answer to your question is yes, they do pay exactly the same rate, irregardless of whether they receive those services, but that is a provincial regulation, not a municipal regulation. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
My other question was, what makes the road unsafe for the plow? I'm assuming it's something to do with the train tracks, but is it a matter of fixing the road to make it safe for the plow, or how does that work?
They need a good turnaround, and I believe in those areas, there's not a good turnaround for the plow. I would think that would be one of the things that would be the problem, that the plows don't want to go down there.
Yeah, it's sort of the same thing. Sorry, Lillian, for interrupting for a second. It's sort of the same thing when you go down past, he works for us, Earl's place. What's that,
Yeah.
Dr. Ellis, is it?
Yeah.
Like, they won't go down there and do that, and it's, I think it has.
That's a private road, though. That's a private road. They don't do that.
Yeah, but they,
That belongs
even if
to
they,
CN.
if you chose to change it to one that you were going to
So it is a
maintain,
private road. It isn't a public road for us to maintain. That belongs to CN.
yeah, but they won't go, they still won't go down there. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's sort of the same thing. Like, if we did ask them, they wouldn't go. And they're not, it's the same thing as going on Ocean Drive. They're not gonna go down there. And what makes it safe or unsafe, I'm not sure. I think a lot of it has to do with some of the councilors mentioned about the going across the tracks without having the signals and stuff like that. But you know, and I can find that information out for you, why they chose
Yeah,
not
if
to
you
go
wouldn't
there.
mind, I find it
Yeah.
odd that a snowplow can't go
I
over
will,
the tracks, but a
Christie,
school bus can.
If you send me an email tomorrow, I'll I'll check it out with
Okay.
Daniel LeBlanc and find out exactly why. I
Yeah,
know
just
the other
find
one
out-
was too steep and the turn was bad. The one that goes down past Mr. Guitar's place on Ocean on the wharf. I think it's called Wharf, but that was the reason for them. But I don't know the reason for the other one, but I will do my best to find out for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, so for my second one, what I would like to see implemented is, I'm going to call it a Google Calendar, but I don't care if it's made by Google or who it's made by, but a calendar that can be overseen by a staff member to keep dates, meetings, and all of that stuff, so that when a meeting or something changes, it's changed on the one calendar that we all have access to, so that we can keep track of everything that's going on, so that if somebody misses an email, or people don't have to go back and find the email, or the date was changed, or the time was changed. I think it would be nice to have one big calendar that would show, council meetings or any meetings coming up, say like with NB Power or the port or any of these other functions that's going on that council needs to know about. I think that would be a nice benefit for us.
I think it's a good idea to have it if when we start on the committee going, that everybody is aware when the meetings are. Because I know that I'm trying to get hooked up with the lodge up here, and they canceled their meeting last week. But if everybody knows it's happening, it's just you have the option to attend. Or the committee, the event committee also are having a meeting tonight at the same time that ours is happening. We can't cut ourselves in two, so we picked this one, I guess.
Exactly.
So, but see, that's where you're overlapping. There's no chances of doubling the meeting that way if you see there's something else, unless it's, you can't change it for one reason or other. Then you're going to have double meetings on some nights.
Yep. So I'm wondering if that is something that requires like a motion, or if that's something, Scott, that you could.
No, I don't. I
place
just
for
think
us,
if we have an agreement, I think amongst council, that if there's a meeting that you're going to, that you want to have published, that would get out there, we can, one of two things, we can put it on the, on the Google Office meetings, or through Nicole onto the website and stuff, but it's just a matter of letting us know, and then we can do that. I know exactly what you're talking about, because every time someone calls me and we set up a meeting, I just put it on my calendar. And I know
Exactly.
that
So-
I have it. It's not a hard thing to do. And
Yeah.
actually, you can do it to me now if you wish. Send it to me and your new CAO, because Nicole and that doesn't take very long to do. And we would just put it on there, and everybody on council would be hooked up to that, and that would be an easy thing to do.
That way you can get a notification if the time has changed or
Yeah.
the date has changed or something. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to have.
Mhm.
Counselor. You're 100% correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
We'll get the new fellow to do that, or new lady.
Put that on the top of the to-do list.
Yeah. No, but I hear you. It's a good idea for sure.
Yeah.
It helps me, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna help everyone else too. So.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Scott, you're up.
I'm up. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What's my first one here? Oh, the capital, you guys all got the attachment that I sent with regards to that. I mean, like I said now for the last few times, the asset management inventory, roads and culverts, which is a big thing in Baldoon, which I've learned since July. Like, there's got to be a plan put in place for the village to do that. There are 6 proponents, 6 parts of this plan. So what I did was I asked Alex, who's the engineer for RVA, who did our first one, if we could break it down in over 2 years. And my only issue, I think it should be done. My recommendation is that we start at that right away. I have a meeting set up with Alex on Monday. That we start right away, but I just don't know where, and maybe Brenda can help us here. The city clerk treasurer could help us with where that money would come from, because if you take a look at it, it's not cheap. It's 23,000 plus 6 plus 40. So do we, and maybe Councillor Burke might be able to help us with that, because he's been through this as well before, but do we take that money from capital Brenda, Mrs. Cormier, if you could step in here. I don't know where to go, and if council wants us to do this, that's, I just want an okay to go ahead and move forward with this, because I think it's important for funding and things like that too, so.
This would not qualify as a capital project. It doesn't qualify under that. It's not an infrastructure, it's
Okay,
not
that's what I thought,
infrastructure.
yeah.
The only other way is, I guess, if council looked over their budget again and reallocated some of the funds from some of the projects they identified and reallocated, like not physically change the budget, but know that they're going to have to drop a project or two to do this one.
Okay. See, I know that there's money that's gonna come from FCM for it. You know, part of what they're doing is with this is they're the ones that are making the application for it. So that money is, there's gonna be some, as Brenda, as you know, I think. We had some before, we might even have, still had some. But I just need to know where to go within the next 2 weeks, because I don't wanna have a meeting with them if we're not gonna do anything about it. That's all.
Anyone else?
I'm
Can we
gonna,
split the
yeah,
cost?
okay.
Over like over 2 years, 3 years?
That's, well, this is already split in half now. So what I did was I asked them if we could do it over 2 years.
This is a $173,000 project.
Yep.
It's not brilliant. Like, I don't understand, and I guess this is part of my continual request for procurement policy training and stuff. At $173,000 plus another $50,000 that we already paid
Mhm.
for asset management planning, why are we not getting more than one quote or more than one estimate for
Well,
these types of projects?
But, well, for one thing, as I mentioned at the other two meetings, they did the original one, and they're the same price as anybody else. If you saw the quotes that came in for all the engineers and stuff. They did the original one, but I don't have to go with them. I can switch. Like, to me,
Well,
it's like,
I just don't understand why we're not seeking other estimates, quotes, whatever, at $200,000+ for consulting fees.
Yeah.
Why we would only go with one. Englobe does a presentation to council, and I think Ron had asked him specifically about asset management plans, and that's part of the type of work that they do. So I don't understand when it's this large amounts of money, why we're not seeking more than one quote.
I can. It's not a problem.
Well,
The reason that I brought
think we should. I mean, I don't know. It's
no, and I agree. I certainly can do that. Councilor
See,
Robinson.
my question would come along the same line as Councillor Robinson. Look, the first stage, if I want to say it that way, the first stage of this asset management plan was done by the previous council. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
2017.
Yeah. So the
well,
question
towards
becomes,
2019.
so we're using all of the information from that report to put together a finalized version of our assets.
Yes.
Okay.
And a plan for what you're going to do in the future.
So the question becomes, how much did we spend? How much did the previous council spend to get the information that we now have, and basically are saying, well, we might as well go with the guy we've already got because they've already did most of the work. How much did that cost?
I have no idea.
I'm wondering, Treasurer Cormier could answer that question. Without, I mean, I'm just asking the question. I know.
No, and
you may not have
it's a
that
valid
information
question.
right at your disposal.
I wouldn't be able to answer that right there now without the information before me, but I can go back and check on the finances, and I could send an email out to council either tomorrow or Thursday.
Because
Yeah, and I'll like Councilor Robinson, I'll definitely look to get someone else. But which I presented twice now. I said, this is the company that has done our work before. There was no, you know, and I understand where you're coming from. Don't get me wrong, but nobody
become a
said
critical
anything
part
about it,
of
but-
where we're going.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that can become a critical part of where we're going. So for example, I mean, I can exaggerate the numbers. It might be $10,000 or it might be $100,000. So
Yeah.
if we don't have to respend an exorbitant amount of money, then what they're charging us to do the second phase, which is what we're looking at around $70,000, could be actually a bargain.
Yeah, I can check into it. I was
Yeah,
involved with the
so-
one in Bathurst
so
too, and I know basically they're all
I
the
would
same
rather-
amount, but I'll
yeah.
get another one too, so
I
that's
just
no
think
problem.
my opinion would be that we see what that number was, because
Mhm.
I do agree with the statement that you made earlier in the sense of saying that if we had to start from ground zero and ask, go out for tender, that means that a new company, they're not going to take the existing file that this previous company did. They're going to want to do their own.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're
it
gonna have
it
a
goes back to
repeat
just
of
if you talk
cost.
about the issue that you had with regards to the person, the resident that said he needs to get his well fixed because we paid one company to do it. We were paid the other a different company from Hamilton, Boissonneau, they give us the exact same answers. So
Yeah.
we paid for it twice. So
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, that's what it is. So like, if
Yeah.
you want me to go get someone else to do it, that's no problem. But they
Yeah.
don't share their information very much either between companies. So
No,
For
I
instance-
would
for
agree that
instance,
they're not
Roy's
going to share that
consultants did
information.
not, they paid money to go down there with a video, like into that residence thing. They're not giving that to Boissonneau.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
their, and for them to do it again, it was gonna cost the exact same amount of money, and they basically called me and told me, well, it's not the
Yeah.
village's fault,
Scott, it might also be helpful for council members to take a look at the documents that were already prepared by R.B. Anderson for the last council.
Yeah, I can do that too. Yeah,
Because this way too.
it's a list of everything we have and how much, but I mean,
Yeah.
I can get the staff to do that, and we can get that. And RVA may send us
if
that
I'm-
too, like a couple more copies or whatever.
I believe I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I included all that information in council's laptops on capital asset management. I believe the reports are in there, but I'll recheck tomorrow to make sure if they were, they weren't, but I thought I had.
Okay,
Okay.
The
So if you would do
policies are
that,
the-
that'd be great, and I
The
understand that.
policies are there, Brenda, but not the plans themselves. I found those on the iCompass.
Okay, thank you. I'll check to see what I have, and the rest might be on the former CAO's laptop or something. Okay.
It could be, it might be on his, he left a stick or whatever with a bunch of stuff on it too, so it could be there, and I'll double check that tomorrow too, Councilor Robinson.
I think council needs to be aware, needs to know what's in those documents, just so there's no overlap. We try to avoid some overlap if we go further with this, right?
Yep.
I
Okay,
agree with the mayor. I think that we don't want to pay twice for a service that we already have.
But I think you need to understand, you can't have an asset management plan that was done in 2017 and not do anything with it for 4 years. It had to be upgraded the whole way, and it never was. So
The report
to
is
do that
2019.
as someone, as a CAO or whoever you're gonna have, it's a big task for that, like, and not, it's
That
not
report
knowledgeable.
was submitted in October of 2019.
I have the one that says 2017 on it. That's.
Well, I have the one that says October
Okay,
2019.
well, I'm not here to argue with you, Cynthia.
Well, neither
I'm
am
trying
I,
to
but
do
I'm
the
telling
best
you,
I can
it's-
for it, but
it's
if you're gonna get like
2019.
that, then that's
I'll tell you
fine.
what, okay, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's just have the latest documents sent out. We'll have council take a look at it, and then that's gonna help with the question of, what we get going forward and what we spend going forward.
Yep.
I think this is the first step for that, so.
But I would
And,
also like to know, I would also like to include what it costs for us to get those documents.
50,000.
That's what the company charged us in 2019, $50,000.
Okay, so we'll get those numbers out to everybody, and you can all have a good look at it, and then that's gonna make the value of discussion a lot better when everybody has that information in front of them, I think, too, so. Okay. We good with that, CEO Ferguson?
Yep.
Okay. So do you want to, is there something else you wanted to touch on, or do you want to go to?
No, that's good. I'm gonna find out that
5:15.
information for everyone and we'll
Okay.
get moving on that. The second one, and I know, again, I just really want to know where we want to move with our, and I didn't provide, and I know Council Robinson asked me, we didn't give any information. I just want to know where you want, I can go get estimates to have the whole thing done and put in a, office space or whatever, get the whole thing done over, or do you just want to have it? That's all the information I'm looking for, and then I'll go from there. Because you're looking at 40,000 to finish the roof, 40 whatever in the walls, or you're looking at a lot more in the other one. And I know you want that information, but do you want to spend that money to do that? I think that at this moment right now that I could probably rent that without doing it, with just doing it with dividers. But if it's the wish of council for me to go and get some carpenters or whatever to come in and get the prices for both of them, I'll certainly do that. But I just want to know if that's what you're looking for. And I'll do that. That's an easy job. Just pick up the phone and say, listen, a couple of people come in here and give us some estimates on it. And I'm okay with that too. And I understand Council Robinson's point on that last week, and that's perfect. No, I can do that. I just want to know what the feeling is of council
Okay,
before I.
well,
move ahead on
let's open it up then. Council, do any council members have something they want to add to that? It says CEO Ferguson is asking for some direction on that particular space.
Oh, if somebody's
talking-
interested in, oops,
Oh, sorry. I just wonder, are we talking about the west wing of the building?
There's one that's not finished, like the ceiling's not done, the walls aren't done, the floor is
Yeah,
not done.
that's a
So
room.
Yeah,
That's a room. But
yeah.
there's
So,
also the west wing.
but it's gonna be a big expense to do over the other stuff, but I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but I mean, if you're looking at perhaps just getting that done first and seeing if you can rent that space without putting a whole lot of money into it, because again, it's not in the budget. So we'd have to find where that's going to come from. So I wanted to know before I stepped into that process of doing that. And I'll do either one. I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal. It's just whatever you want me to do.
so if somebody's interested in the rental of it,
Yes,
what is the requirements that they would need to move in?
have the walls painted and the floor done and the ceiling done. And they're
We
not
gotta
going to
do
be,
it
they're not
eventually
planning
anyway.
on, but again, it's going to have to go out. You just can't give it to them, so you got to put it out to public or whatever and see if somebody else wants it. But I know
This,
these people would take it. It's the same company that's in there right now.
okay, so we
What
need to
are
do
they,
it
McDonald's, I think
regardless.
it's called. So they contacted me and I said, well, like, we didn't have any plans to do any work to that or any other work to the village center. I know the sentiment about that too. Like, I mean, but if it's something that you wanted to have done, then I certainly would go ahead and do that.
We need to do it eventually. We need to do the walls, the floors eventually, no matter who gets in there, right?
That's my feeling that
So
the
that
minimum
was-
we could do, and you could probably still rent it, but you might be taking some other people out of the picture if you're not gonna put in offices like they have in McDonald's across the auctioneers across the hall right now.
They do go,
But they don't, I've spoken to him, he called me and the owner of the company and asked me if that was gonna be available, and we don't need to have any big work done, we're just looking for a space. And we'll put some dividers in there where people can do, and they would do that. We just need to finish it to get the walls and the ceiling and the floors done. And I can get that estimate, and I can get an estimate of doing the office space, but I know what it costs to do the other one.
Yeah,
So,
I honestly think we should do what is required to start
Mhm.
off, like the floors and the ceilings or whatever, the minimum.
mhm.
And then put it out for bid, and whoever wants it can finish up what they need inside.
Yeah, you're looking at, they pay, I think $750 for the first one and then $500 for the second. So that'll be something that comes back to you guys about what you're gonna But it's been there for a while and it's not rented, so if you want to get $500 a month or whatever from it, I'm pretty sure he's gonna do that, but I would bring that back to you people as well. What his request would be.
So the sooner the better, is that, he wants to get in
No, he
there?
wants it, yeah, he called me last week, which is why I put it out there, because I didn't even have any thoughts of doing anything with it either, and like I
Right.
said, Councilor Robinson's correct, we don't have any documentation on it, like, I'm not saying that, but I can get that if you want to do both. What I'm saying is, my recommendation would be just, at this point, you go and get the bare minimum that they're gonna take.
Right.
And, and I think they'll take it the way it is with dividers, instead of going and building offices and, putting in a washroom or whatever, not washrooms because they're down the hall or whatever.
Yeah,
But, it's up to you guys. And I just was looking for some direction on that. I don't want to go get someone to come in and say they're going to spend $150,000 to do an office space when you can probably get it done for 40. And that's all I want. But I definitely will get both done. It's not a big deal. Like, it's up to you guys.
mhm. I say we do the
Well,
bare
I can do
minimum.
both. I can get them both done if that's what you want. I can get some people to come in and say, okay, this is what we want, because of the size of it, you're gonna wanna have a meeting, an entryway, then you're gonna wanna have 2 offices, sort of like what Christie has in hers on the other side. I know how much that costs. Or you just do the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and get them dividers, because otherwise you're gonna be putting a lot of money into it, and then that's up to you. I don't know where we'll come from, but
Yeah.
I agree with Marilyn, Counselor Butar McDonald, that's a hard slip for me, Marilyn.
Sorry.
Let's do the bare minimum and rent it, and we'll have no more on that side, because I know in the past I heard you need to do the walls, the minimum to it. If they decide to do anything else, it would be maybe on their
yeah,
budget.
and that's something you can look at as well. Like, if at that point, then you could also say, listen, we'll do it, but you're gonna pay. So,
Mhm.
if this is
Yeah.
what you want, then you'll have to pay to get that. But I know these people don't want that. They just want to have a place where they can have
Yeah.
a desk and sit and do that. But
More
I
office,
can
okay?
I can do both, so it's not a big issue.
I think we need to know exactly what we're talking about in terms, we can't to say, yeah, go ahead and do it. We don't know what the cost estimates are. We don't know what the actual scope of work is. We don't know what they're actually looking for. So until we have those concrete, proposals, then and we had already decided earlier in the year that we weren't budgeting for renovations to any of those spaces.
I know, that's why I brought it up to you.
That's right. We had $300,000 from capital borrowing that we could have used that we sent back. So it's and then to say we're giving it to that space would have to be advertised as rental space available to anybody, right? We can't just say, oh, there's one company that's interested, we're going to give it to them. It has to be open to.
Oh, no, and I said, I don't know
right?
if you heard me or not, but I did say that it would have to go to the public. But if it's a matter of, do you want to finish it all or just do bare minimum, and then it goes, the bare minimum goes out to everybody too.
Cost estimates, and we don't know where the money's coming from. I think I don't think we're there yet to make a decision to go forward or not. We don't know what the costs are and what exactly we're proposing to do, right?
Okay, well, whatever council decides,
I just think we sit on these things and we wait and we wait. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there's an interest in that and they're just looking for the bare minimum, I agree. We need to find out how much it's going to cost. But we could, hold off on that and be sitting here next year with the same conversation.
Yes, but
So
we
let's
had already made the decision that we weren't renovating that space.
Yes, but we didn't have an offer of someone wanting to rent
not to
it.
renovate it, and now somebody else is interested, so now we are going to renovate it.
Why not,
We already decided for the previous offer on that
But
space that we
it's
weren't going to
empty.
renovate it.
Councilor Burke, you haven't had a chance to rhyme in here.
No, I mean, look, for me, I agree in the sense of saying that, a space needs to have a bare minimum. That I agree. I also agree with that. We need to know what that costs. So I believe we need to go out sooner than later to get an estimate or 2 or 3 on how much it's going to cost to put it at a bare minimum.
I can do that.
okay, the next question for me becomes, if we have a party interested, are they looking at long-term or short-term? Because for us to invest money in short-term, to me, kind of defeats what we're trying to do. So if they're looking, I mean, what's our normal contract length? Is it a 3-year contract, a 5-year contract? What do we normally look at?
Mrs. Cormier, do you have an idea of that? You're muted.
Yeah, just trying to get my mouse to work. It varies. They're different for each of the rentals we have. They're all different leases. So it varies.
Okay. So we could actually say discuss or choose what the length of the contract would be depending on what it costs to have it renovated.
Yeah, and Councilor Robinson's correct. It's gonna have to go out. So you just can't give it to somebody. So that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
But
I agree that it should be sooner than later.
Yes.
RFP, request for proposal or whatever, and go that route. But my idea was, do you want to have a request for proposal for a well-finished office like the other one is now, or do you just want to do the bare minimum? And I can get both. So I'm not here to argue about that. I'll do whatever council's wishes are. That's fine.
So I'm just going to take it one step further, if I may, that I do agree with Councillor Guitar McDonnell's point that sometimes our messages are not as clear as they should be. So I'm going to make the statement, and I want council to pipe in if they don't agree with it. Council is giving direction to the CAO to go out and get the evaluations of what it will cost to renovate that premise to the minimum basis and do it sooner than later.
Yes.
Am I clear?
Yes, you're
I
clear.
get that.
Council
Exactly.
agree.
Yes.
I
So,
do.
so that
Here is
the
my,
CAO knows where to go.
yes.
There you go, Scott.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'll get on that.
Okay, so that's good. Leave it to Deputy Mayor Burke to get this finished and no time flat. He doesn't mess around. Now, that's a good discussion, Council. Thank
Yeah, it
you.
is. And I appreciate all comments. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to make sure that I've got everything.
Okay, so we can
The
bring.
last one
Council-
is the Acadie Bathurst T10.
Someone, can
request-
someone maybe text Councilor Carrier and let her know? She
Okay.
can come back in.
Yeah, so that's my last one. You saw the proposal. I'm a Titan fan, so, but you know, it's whatever your wishes are. I guess my feeling is with COVID right now, it's a crapshoot, you know, like maybe there's going to be games, maybe there aren't going to be games. Maybe you're not going to get your $500 worth of, you know, what they want to put. They're going to put it on the score clock there, Village of Beldoon or whatever. So I'll be honest with you, my recommendation would be not to do it this year. And I'm a supporter of the Titans and whatever, but I think that probably you may want to look at it next year. And you know, your school years pretty much, we're into March break here soon. So, and they could be leaving. So to you know, when I spoke to the general manager or whatever, well, we're not sure we'll be able to do that because of COVID. And, you know, and for me, the big part when I was administrator in the school, when we had the Titans come in to speak and read to the kids, that was a big thing. And
Yeah.
the kids really like that. They like to go to the game too. Don't get me wrong. We always had, and I know Jacket River went too. They used to take a bus and go because they all did. And they had a great time doing that. But I just don't know if you're going to get your value out of that. So my recommendation would be, if you want me to call Selge tomorrow and just say, listen, councils will probably wait and take a look at, revisit it in September, or you can go ahead with it. My recommendation would be to.
Can you just ask him to send us something in September, whenever?
Yeah, they
remind us
will.
of
I
this?
talked to him too, and he said,
Yeah.
yeah, I said, you were late getting out to us. Like, you didn't give us anything prior to that. I only got it like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or whatever. And then, you know, we're into January then. So,
Yeah.
So I have no problem calling them and saying, listen, sellers, it's a great idea. I enjoy it. I'm a hockey fan or whatever, but you know, I think that probably, you know, your 1,500 or whatever it is that he's talking about, probably could be used elsewhere. That's my feeling. So I'll leave it in your hand.
I think probably all of council agrees with that, council.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call him tomorrow then.
Okay.
The last one I think I have, your worship, is the Beldoon Port Authority replacement. As you know, Mr. Paul Shannon is finished in this month.
April
or-
1st.
Yeah, so I did talk to Jennifer today, their legal. So she said, you know, he underneath the Port Authority, the Federal Port Authority, they don't have to fill he can't stay on there any longer. His term is done.
Mhm.
But they said they can wait until April 1st. So if we advertise for that position this week, then we can replace that person. So that's my goal, is to have that done by Friday and get it on the website, that we're looking for a replacement with the stuff that you received in your package from the feds or whatever with regards to that. So I don't think we should just take that, in my own opinion, just take it lightly. I think we need to put it out there for everybody to get a chance to apply for it. If you take a look at the commitment, that's, you got a meeting once a month and whatever, there's also, if you took a look at it as well, there's also pretty good little salary that comes with it too. So, I think those things need to be looked at with regards to that. So my goal is to just update you that I'm going to put it out probably by Friday. On
Okay.
the website and advertise that.
Are you
that
just
position.
putting it on the website, or are you putting out flyers by mail also?
Well, it's probably going to go in Messenger as well.
Messenger.
And on the website. To me, you want, obviously they have to be a resident of Beldoon. So
Right.
there's no sense putting it anywhere else, I don't think. Everyone gets that. The Messenger and website is quite, and Facebook too, probably.
Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, just say we have this position, please check the Messenger or whatever, or the website.
So when is the last day for putting in for it?
April 1st.
That will be the last day, and then the decision will be made in the
Yeah.
April meeting?
Yep, you guys are the ones that make the decision about
Okay.
who's on it, so.
Can I just say, looking at the flyer from the Port of Beldoon, it has our applicants going to their office. Can you change that on the flyer so that it goes to the village?
Yes, Cynthia, can you send me that email in the morning?
Yeah.
If you remember that, because
I'll-
maybe we
I'll
can
do
put it
to-
on
I'll-
that
I'll do
Google
it today.
meeting.
They have our applicants going to their office instead of
Yeah.
ours.
So that's it for me. I would just like to say one thing. We are meeting on Thursday. Is that okay, your worship, if I talk about that for
Oh,
a
yeah.
second?
Sure.
Council members who sit on the board and myself and his worship and Jack and Denny will be meeting on Thursday. And I think the goal of that meeting is for everyone to bring their short lists that they have. We have 15 applicants for the position.
Very good.
And I'm not a judge of it, but I've been involved in hiring a lot, and you have some good applicants for your
Good.
position. So it's not going to be an easy choice. And I might know I'm only here till March 4th or thereabouts, and I'll come back and fill in the guy or girl who's coming in and screw them up a little bit. But I will do that for a bit. But I want to let you know that my true belief in this as the CAO since July, the interim CAO, is that you really need to take into account this committee, the work they put into it, and who they suggest comes from it. I've said it 3 times or 4 times now, but I think that's key. Otherwise, whenever you have something like this that might happen again, they're going to be reluctant to sign up and do that, because every one of them on that committee, including our counselors, are taking this very seriously and reviewing all their applicants. And so I think that council, I'm not saying you can make up your own minds, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there Councillor Burke. Not you, I just said 2 cents because that's.
Okay. Any council members have any comments or things they want to respond?
I have one that I'd like to comment on, if I may, Your Worship, just concerning the application for the filling of the port vacancy. We
Just one
said
second.
April 1st.
This one, because we did move on, but I'm just gonna, I have no, is council okay? Mayor Burke, Deputy Mayor Burke just wants to make a comment. Are we okay with that?
I'm fine with it.
I'm
Okay, it's
fine with it.
all good.
Yeah. I just want to be sure that we all understand, or that we're all in agreement that they've asked for the applicant for April 1st to be in place for April 1st. There are reasons for that because there are activities that go on in the port quarterly. So when the first quarter would finish at the end of March, there would be meetings going on in April. So with that said, we certainly would want the individual we choose to be part of that. So I'm just wondering if when the flyer goes out, it could be said something along the lines that, prior to our public meeting in March would be the deadline. And that would allow council to have an in-camera meeting prior to our public meeting to decide who we wish to appoint to that position, because it is basically an employee of the village. And with that said, at the public meeting in March, we could make the motion to nominate that individual. So that's kind of like the timeline. I just wanted to throw that out to council.
Okay.
Anyone have an issue with that? Or?
I have no problem with that, but you're saying an employee of the village, but we never see any reports from this person. They're basically on the board, and a lot of things that they have to say is confidential. So even Denise said that they don't bring anything back. If we have any questions, we go to Denise himself. So, and it's the port that's paying them. So is it actually an employee of the village? After thinking of all that?
Yeah, you may have a point there. I mean, yeah,
it's
maybe a point. Yeah.
It's a committee appointment like no other, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's different than what we're usually appointing.
Yeah.
Just getting back to the timeline, Deputy Mayor Burke's timeline, Scott. Oh, Scott, you had something, but you're muted, Scott.
Yeah, okay. I think it's a good idea, Deputy Mayor, to have it like before that, so that you guys can have the person in place before those meetings start. But whatever your wishes, we'll get on board. But I don't think it's a big thing to do, because we're February the what?
15th.
15th. So if we say March the 12th or 13th or whatever, still gives people a lot of time to do that. So I think that's a very good point there, Ron.
Okay.
That's what I'll do.
The regular meeting of March is the 21st, I believe it is.
Okay. So we'll have to get the applicants in by the week before that then.
Okay.
We'll put the 13th or
Did
whatever.
anyone have any follow-up to CEO Ferguson's comments on the CEO search committee, the meeting specifically on Thursday or anything like that?
So I'm looking forward to the new candidate. We have very interesting people that came in the last 2 weeks, right up till the last day. I believe we had the last candidate. So I'm kind of excited to get this. I'm going to miss you, Scott, but
Oh,
you don't want to stay. So what can I tell you?
I'm looking forward to you guys getting someone in place that's going to be here regular too, and probably the ones that we've seen have a lot of the good ones have backgrounds in that field. Whether it's some of the things that I don't get right all the time. I think the person that you've got coming in will be better suited for that role, and I'm looking forward to working with them for a little bit when they get on.
Okay.
Well, Scott, you know what? We gave you a hard time and you put up with us for 6 months.
Oh, yeah, you put up with me. What are you talking about?
We're going to miss you, my dear boy.
Okay. Is that it for that, Scott?
I'm out. I'm good.
Okay, what do we got next? Let me scroll down here. Oh, closed session, we got nothing, so we can adjourn.
Oh,
Okay, so
Okay.
can can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move 2022-02-15-24 that the meeting adjourn at 8:14.
Can I get a seconder?
I second it.
On the question, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, all those opposed say nay. Okay, meeting is adjourned and we'll, hopefully the technology will cooperate. We'll get it up as soon as possible.
Yep.
Okay,
Hopefully.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Is
you,
our
Council.
next meeting?
Thank you,
at
guys.
the Chambers?
My preference is that it would be like, we go to level 1 this week, okay? Let me just check. I just want to make sure I have my Ts crossed and my Is dotted so that I'm following the guidelines like I'm supposed to, but I'm like you guys, I want to be in the chambers as much as possible, right? This is nice and it works, but chambers is definitely better. But this is Tuesday, I'll be on that like all week, so you'll be hearing from me. Like, well, if we can do it, we will. How about that?
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
sounds good.
Going to level 1, does that open us up to having the council chambers open to the public?
It would, I think there's something about capacity, there's capacity issues, there's masking. So let me get that from COVID-19, the hotline, because from the discussions that I've had, like with say WorkSafe NBA, that they say, take what the COVID-19 hotline is telling you
Okay.
and go with that. So let me get back to them and I'll ask them for a written response so that I can send it out to everybody. So everybody will know exactly what the parameters are for us and for the public under level 1.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
good night.
Night.
See you later. Good
See
night.
ya. I gotta
Night.
try to get out of here.
Okay.